Hello everyone, today we're going to be doing Protection Warrior 10.2. We're going over the tier set bonuses, the talent changes. We're going to talk about possibly when to break your 4-piece tier set, when to break your next 2-piece, and those sorts of fun things. So really, let's just get right into Protection Warrior. Now, Protection Warrior has a very strong tier set coming into this season, where the 2-set Spending Rage has a chance to cause your next Shield Slam to consume your bleeds on a target, instantly dealing 40% of the remaining damage of your deep wounds and rend, but 100% of Thunderous Roar's damage, and reducing the damage you take by 10% for 5 seconds. For each bleed effect consumed from a target, your damage taken is reduced by an extra 2%. So basically, it's going to be a 14% damage reduction at all times, occasionally being 16 when you're playing this, correctly and aggressively. And when Shield Slam consumes a bleed, the cooldown of Thunderclap is going to be reset, and the cooldown of Thunderous Roar is going to be reduced by 3 seconds. So let's talk about playstyle here. Obviously, we are going to be a bleed-based warrior. That is the whole goal of what we're going to do here. Now, in Season 2, with our Last Stand tier and the Earthen Grasp, the Earthen Tenacity Frontal from Shield Slam, we were fishing for a lot of Shield Slam procs, and that is going to continue in 10.2, because while Shield Slam does proc on its own, has a short cooldown, we do want this as available as possible, because when you are spending as much rage as we are, this procs a lot. So one of the things that's going to be going on is you're going to be wanting Shield Slam as much as possible. You hit Shield Slam, we gut all of the bleeds out. Let's just call it gutting. I don't have a better terminology for it right now. And then you immediately hit Shield Slam. You immediately hit Thunderclap again. So it goes Shield Slam with your proc into Thunderclap to reapply the bleeds as fast as possible. Now, the thing with Thunderous Roar is you can tab target off as much as you want and try and, make the bleed go 100% quicker, but but that's not really going to change the damage. Whether Thunderous Roar is going to deal 100% of its damage via either the gutting or just letting it bleed out naturally doesn't really matter. So don't worry too much about that, but make sure that you do have rend and deep wounds on any target that you are about to Shield Slam. That is very, very important. And obviously, because whenever you're proccing this, you want to be able to gut those bleeds out. When I've tried tab targeting over different ones, trying the pandemic effect, refreshing the rend and the deep wounds to make it last a little bit longer. And while sometimes it did equate to a minimal damage bonus, it's very, very small, so I really wouldn't worry too much about that either. This is a very strong tier set, 14% damage reduction at pretty much all times when you're playing aggressively and spending rage is incredibly strong defensively, but Thunderous Roar's cooldown being reduced by 3 seconds is also incredibly strong. This is one of the changes. So I do run a little bit more of a different build than a lot of people do, especially because I'm not running plus 25 keys. I like to stick in the keys that I'm comfortable with or push a little bit higher, 23s, 24s. Unfortunately, I pug a lot, and once you get to that pug range, it starts to get kind of infuriating. But Bloodborne is now going to be a very, very good option, because increasing the damage of Rend, Deep Wounds, and Thunderous Roar is really, really good. So you're going to want to be using these as your flex points whenever you can. Spell block, also incredibly strong when it is useful, but there are some dungeons from time to time where spell block sees very minimal value, and proper defensive rotation can just make up for this button, and you can have more damage from Bloodborne. And of course, Disrupting Shout. Disrupting Shout is basically going to be mandatory in Throne of Tides, with all of the kicks that are basically required there, but it's not going to be a mandatory staple in every single dungeon, so there definitely is some options that you can go and choose from and work around. Punish is also still going to be very, very good, because we are going to be fishing for those Shield Slam procs, so I do think that Battering Ram is going to remain. But this is talking from a Mythic Plus perspective. Now, one of the big changes here, now there's always different changes that you can go through here. Whether or not we even take Rally for Mythic Plus because it just got gutted, it really should have the 100% increase effectiveness outside of Raid. I understand the nerf inside Raid, because Rally was a really, really powerful cooldown, but it was always mid at best in Mythic Plus, and now with it getting reduced because of the nerf because of the Raid, really not good for Mythic Plus. So this might be an option that you could just opt out of, furthering the lack of utility that Prot Warriors do have. Now, luckily, we do have access to a lot of stuns with Shield Charge, Stormbolt, and Shockwave. Now, Shockwave, honestly, like, I'm still really mad at that this should be somewhere up in the tree, but whatever. That is its own different thing. We can also always take Intimidating Shout for more AoE stops. So we do have quite a few stops at our disposal with Disrupting Shout, Shockwave, and a lot of different useful things here. But if you may notice here, I've actually not been running Unstoppable Force. So Unstoppable Force, what it does is Avatar increases the damage of your Thunderclap and Shockwave by 50% and reduces the cooldown of Thunderclap by 50%. Because of the tier set bonus and how often Thunderclap was resetting, the reduced cooldown of Thunderclap legitimately is not necessary. Now, you are losing 50% Thunderclap damage, 50% Shockwave damage. You're using it as a stop. If it happens during Avatar, great, but you're not hitting Shockwave for the damage, right? You're hitting Shockwave for the stop. So I've actually been opting into Uproar to reduce the cooldown of Thunderous Roar by another 30 seconds, making it 1 minute. Now, this has given us an incredibly powerful AoE AoE profile, which can easily reduce the cooldown of Thunderous Roar by quite a bit when you're playing aggressively and you're burning as much rage as possible. So you definitely do have some options there. I will be updating the build for when things go live and we have tier set and we're kind of able to kind of see where things go and what requirements are in the dungeon as well. So stay tuned for that. This is just a 10.2 update on Prot Warrior. I actually think that this is the tier set is incredibly strong. It's going to be a lot of fun. I have played Prot Warrior for many years now. It is my one true love for tanking. As much as I love the other tanking specs, Prot Warrior has always been the one that I will always want to go to whenever things kind of come around. You can always opt for Sidearm. When I'm pugging, I actually do prefer Concussive Blows because the reduction on Pummel, your interrupt, is very, very good. You may not notice, but there's a lot of things here where that 1 extra second allows you to solo kick a lot of mechanics, and you get free damage. When you're in an organized group that has an actual kick rotation, you're going to see a lot less value out of Concussive Blows, and you might want to opt for Sidearm instead. But when you are pugging and you are basically the tank, and you're the one that has triple the amount of interrupts than anybody else, which happens very frequently in pug keys, Concussive Blows does see a lot of value. But that's something that you're going to want to kind of go around and choose for yourself. But I actually think we might be opting out of Unstoppable Force here and going into Uproar, because we also want the duration and the damage increase of all bleed effects by Thunderous Words. Removing Thunderous Words for Uproar is a big damage loss because, bleeds, deep wounds, rends, that's a lot of damage. And with how it interacts with our tier set, that's what we're going to want. In Mythic Plus, I don't think you're going to want to break your tier set, your 4-piece, until you have 4-piece. Now, this is going to be all up to Sims and everything else, but from a playstyle perspective, the current tier set is not bad. It's actually a pretty decent tier set, all in all, but you need all 4 pieces to make it work, right? And the moment you break it, you're getting 2 different versions. You will get a 10% DR naturally, which could help you in your runs and things like that as you're kind of progressing keys and having that, going through that level of fun. But I would probably opt for the 4-piece until you get your 4-piece. In Raid, it is the opposite. You can break it as soon as possible because being able to, the old tier set from Season 2, has a lot more of an AoE component than it does a single target component, where our tier set in 10.2 is incredibly strong in single target and AoE. It's really, really good just all around. So in Raid, I would be opting to break the set as soon as you have your 2-piece. So that way, as long you can run 2 and 2-piece and still be fine, because the main 2-piece effect from what we get here, which is spending Rage has a chance to consume the bleeds on a target, is really strong, and just having a 10% damage DR in Raid is going to make you incredibly tanky, but it's also going to increase your single target damage by consistently and constantly gutting out those bleeds. So that is Protection Warrior for a 10.2 right now. That's where it stands. There's always changes that happen on the PTR. Disclaimer, things change all of the time. They could buff this like crazy. They could nerf it like crazy. We don't know. Stay tuned. I will be updating that for when the time does come around. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Have yourself a good one. Happy tanking. Bye.